Welcome back to Fundamentals of Programming. This is Lesson 8, where we discuss something called variables. Now in Lesson 7, we talked about some data types in the JavaScript language, and you can find similar data types in other languages. But as far as JavaScript is concerned, we discussed the string data type, the number data type, and the Boolean data type. And here I have three of those values. We have a string value of hello world, and then we have a number value of 10, and then we have a Boolean value of false. Now these values literally appear within our code, so we call these literal values. So we have a string literal, we have a number literal, and we have a Boolean literal. Now we don't always use literal values within our code, because if we did, then our code would be extremely inflexible. For example, let's say that we are writing a calculator application, and in that application, we have a function that adds two numbers together. Well, if we only use literal values, we can only use literal numbers within our code. So let's say that we code our add function to add 2 and 3 together. Now, every time that we would call that add function, we would get the value of 5. That's helpful if we want 2 plus 3, but what if we want 3 plus 3 or 4 plus 5? That causes a problem. So we need some way to work with data, but without knowing what that actual data is. And that's where variables come in. You can think of a variable as a box of memory that you can store values in, and then later on use that variable to retrieve the value that you originally stored in it. But unlike a physical box with a physical item, whenever you take the item out of the box, you have an empty box. Well, a variable does not work that way. Whatever you put in a variable stays in that variable until you assign something else to that variable. So let's look at how we can create a variable in JavaScript. Now, keep in mind that different languages have different syntaxes for variables. JavaScript uses a keyword called var. This is going to tell the JavaScript engine that, hey, we want to create a variable. So we have var, a space, and then we need to pick a name for this variable so that we can use it throughout our code. A name can begin with a lowercase or an uppercase letter. It can also begin with a $sign or an underscore. That's it. But after the first character, we can use alphanumeric characters, an underscore, or a $sign as well. So if we wanted to name this variable, this is, use a $sign for S, a variable, and then another underscore, that would be a perfectly valid variable name. But we typically don't want to name our variables like this because this is rather cryptic. If we were reading this within our code, we would kind of be scratching our heads as to, well, it's great that this is a variable, but what does it contain? So instead of doing something like this, we would want to name the variable something that is descriptive as to what the value it contains. So let's say that we want a variable to contain a person's age. Well, we can just call it age. And that way, whenever we are reading our code, we see age and we know exactly what this variable is supposed to be. So in order to create a variable, we use the var keyword and then the name of the variable that we want to create. We finish it off with a semicolon, and then that's it. We have just declared a variable. This is a variable declaration statement, and we declared the age variable. Now, as it is, the age variable only contains a value of undefined. Undefined is a built-in data type of the JavaScript language. So there you go. We have 4 data types now. The undefined data type only has one value, undefined. And if you declare a variable without giving it a value, then that variable contains the value of undefined. So as it is right now, age is undefined, but we can give it a value by using an assignment operator. An operator is a symbol that performs some type of operation. In the case of the assignment operator, its symbol is an equal sign, and it takes whatever is on the right-hand side of the equal sign and assigns it to whatever is on the left hand of the equal sign. So the equal sign is the assignment operator, and this is an assignment statement, and we are assigning the value of 33 to the age variable. So assignment goes from right to left. Okay, so now after line 3 executes, the age variable contains the value of 33. So let's alert age so that we can see that it does indeed contain 33. Let's run this within the browser. Lesson 8. Run a file that I already have prepared, and there we go. We have the value of 33. Now, just to show you that there's nothing out of the ordinary, let me open up that HTML file, and here it is. A normal HTML document. It has just one script file, lesson 8, and that is what we are doing here. So if we wanted to change the value that's being alerted just to ASDF, if we go back to the browser and refresh, we can see that we are getting the different value there. So age contains the value of 33. Well, what if we want to change that value? Well, that's very simple. All we have to do is assign it another value. So now, after line 7 executes, it will have a value of 22. So let's go ahead and alert age again. Let's go back to the browser, refresh. We will see first that it has ASDF. That means I need to go back and save this JavaScript file. So let's go back to the browser. Let's refresh once again. We have 33, and then we will see the value of 22. So in JavaScript, you can use the same variable over and over and over again for whatever value that you wanted to. In fact, if for some reason we wanted to assign a string to age, which really doesn't make sense because age is a numeric type of value, we could do that. So let's alert age once again. Make sure I saved it. Go back to the browser, we'll see 33, then 22, and then Jeremy. So in JavaScript, we can assign different values of different types to the same variable. And you might be tempted to do so, but don't. Let's consider that we are using the age variable for some mathematical calculations. Well, if age is a string and we try to use it in a mathematical calculation, then our code is going to give us some unexpected results, and our code is going to fail. So if you need an age variable, use an age variable. If you need to store the name of a person, don't use the age variable for the person's name. Create a new variable for that person's name. Now, this isn't a flaw of the JavaScript language. There are many languages that behave in this same way. These types of languages are called dynamic languages, and you will find dynamic languages primarily used within the web. JavaScript, PHP, Ruby, these are all dynamic languages, and they are extremely popular. There are other types of languages called static languages, which are very inflexible in the types of data that you can store within a variable. In static languages, you have to create a variable of a particular data type, and then you can only store values of that data type in that variable. But we don't have to worry about that because JavaScript is not that way. Now let's get rid of the majority of this code so that we can just focus on the first two lines, the declaration and then the assignment. Now this is not uncommon to declare a variable and then assign it a value later on in the code. In fact, this is somewhat normal because there are times when you know that you need a variable, but you don't know the value that you want to give that variable just yet. But there are many more times when you know that you need a variable and you know the value that you want to assign to that variable. And instead of doing so in 2 lines, you can do it in 1. All you have to do is combine the 2. Use the var keyword, followed by the name of the variable, and then the assignment operator, and then the value. And this is a variable initialization statement. You are initializing the variable with a value. And there you have it. That's a crash course on variables, how to create them, how to assign values to them, and how to use them within our code. If you remember, we called the alert function, passed the age variable to it, and then that value contained within that variable was used within the alert window. In the next lesson, we will look a little bit more at variables, but we will also combine variables with some more operators. We discussed one operator today with the assignment operator. We will talk about some other operators in the next lesson. So there you go. I will see you next time.